you, Mr. Mayor. It's been really interesting hearing the comments across this chamber. I saw the piece in the Examiner as Councillor Hall talked about they weren't putting an amendment because they weren't listened to. So I thought I'd go back and have a look at previous amendments from the Conservative Party. And very often I see on the sheets use money from reserves, and yet that's being done as a criticism now. Very often it's about suggestions in there that we've done and we've done better and cheaper, things like funding PCSOs. The police are funding the PCSOs now, not us. I'm not surprised by the comments from my colleagues on the far right there, simply because they must be embarrassed about what this government is doing. They must be embarrassed unless they don't read the newspapers, watch television, listen to the local government association, look at other media. They must be embarrassed about the careful dismantling of the NHS in this country, where they have given the NHS 0.9%. The average under the Labour government was never lower than 4.6%, and that's what's needed by the NHS. They must be embarrassed that the welfare system is dismantled, impacting on ill and disabled people mostly. They must be embarrassed about starving the fire service of funding. They must be embarrassed about what is obviously an attempt to dismantle councils. I have to say, hallelujah. Councillor Smage is absolutely right about the assessments, and that needs to be better. And she actually gave some constructive proposals. I would propose that the Conservative Party listen to Councillor Smage and get her to write their future budget amendments, because she does understand. I have to say, we talked about government deficits and how terrible it was under Labour. If we're going to throw those rocks about, the Conservative government deficit has increased fourfold since they came into power. You know, that it has. If you go have a look at the figures. I have to say, when I look at the previous Conservative amendments, well, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I took over your role for a moment. When I look at the previous Conservative amendments and the suggestions of what they do with money, they were about parks and about toilets and libraries, and those are all important things to our community. But let's face facts now. There are, not a huge number, but some of us will be joining them, very elderly, infirm, ill, disabled, people with learning disability, who have an absolute need and requirement from this council to provide for them. The money that is around now is enough to just about do that. It isn't, and I'm really, really desperately sorry. I absolutely accept the importance of libraries. I accept the importance of communities and parks, but we now have to cut things down unless you want to let those most vulnerable people down. And those will be your grandparents, your grandchildren, your relatives, your neighbours. It could even be one of us eventually. Let's not be so mean that we think if there's only so much money, we have to protect that. But social care is absolutely under threat. It has lots of extra conditions and responsibilities put on it without the funds to do it. Funds have been taken away, like in last year, £2 million taken out of public health. They said in June, oh, we're taking that away. Ta-da. It really is the most...
30 seconds, Councillor Kendrick.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The most difficult thing, the one thing, just to go on a theme from earlier, I have to confess, like you came out, Mr. Mayor, about your antecedents. Whilst I was born in Yorkshire, my mother was born in Surrey. And actually, Longfellow Road, the same road that John Major was born on. She left round about the time he was born, but I don't think it was related to that. I have to say, I have an envy for the person who looks after
Thank
for
you,
adult
Councillor
social
Kendrick.
care in Surrey.
Thank you. Councillor